Hey, everyone, and welcome to All Things Grace podcast. I am so super excited for today's episode. I am thrilled to welcome back Shawn Harper, but this time he did it right. He brought his lovely, incredible wife Philana with him. We're going to be talking about their story, their 25-year Black love story, talking about the challenges they faced, how they have found grace for one another, how grace moves in their life, the lessons they've learned along the way. You do not want to miss. It's going to be a great, great show. So I just want to thank you so much, Shawn and Philana, for joining us and just being vulnerable and candid about all your journey, your whole journey. So I'm super excited. Thank you. And just happy to have you here.
Thank you so much, Dr. Michelle. I'm excited to be here, and I was able to listen to the podcast that you did with Shawn.
Oh, you heard the podcast?
I did.
Oh, okay. I'm still here.
You're okay. Right.
Talking to.
Exactly. Well, I am so happy, and I just want to kind of hop right in.
Sure.
25 years. First, how did you meet?
Oh, you know the story.
Yeah, I do.
Go ahead, he's a great storyteller.
Okay, so
he's the best storyteller.
So we first met in the sixth grade. We didn't like each other. We didn't talk to each other. No, we didn't like each other. You know, and because she was the straight A, straight-laced student, never got in trouble ever. Right. And I lived in the principal's office. So we actually got reacquainted from the sixth grade to the eighth grade. We didn't speak highly at all.
No.
And we reacquainted when I went up to Toronto. There was a Caribbean festival called the Caravana. And I went up there all by myself. And she had her friend with her. And around 4 a.m, they did a stop. We were on the same bus tours, like three buses.
Yes.
I'm on bus number 3, and you're on bus number 2, I think. And they did a bathroom break around 4 a.m, and I'm walking to the bathroom. She's walking back to the bus, and I see this beautiful. She had on black jeans and this I Love Jamaica shirt, right? And she's walking. I'm like, oh. But you can't be thirsty, right? So I just like the mental picture, right? Because I'm gonna spit my game later on. I'm telling you. So we stopped at breakfast, and I'm looking across the room. It was like 100 of us, and I'm like, she gets up to pay her ticket. I'm like, I went to school with her. And I get up and I walk over and I'm like, hey, Fonda, how you doing? And I promise you, she's going to deny this. She looked at me like, you peasant. Weren't you in jail or in prison? Gangbanger. Like, what are you doing here? And so she kind of like dismissed me. And I walked outside, no lie. I walked outside. I said, God, I don't care what you have to do. This is my wife. Amen. And I walked back in, and we saw each other a little later on. And sure enough, I told her I was there by myself, and she was like, okay, I see you're by yourself. And I started, I'm doctor, I'm not going to lie, I started spitting game. I know I had like I started spitting everything from life to the periodic table. I was just like, she's like, oh, you have changed using big words and all. So we were supposed to meet that night, but, she stood me up. She was supposed to call me. She said she fell asleep. I was like, whatever, say that you were abducted, like an alien or something. Don't say you fell asleep. And we started talking, and we just kept moving. And we got back to Columbus, and I went away to play 1 more year in the NFL Europe. And I said, if I can come back and still have a relationship, I'm going to propose to her. And that's what happened.
Wow. That is awesome. That is an amazing story. Philana, what was your perspective of that process? Like,
yes, so just like he said, when I saw him up there, I was in total shock. I'm like, what? What is he doing here? And I didn't believe him when he said he was alone. I was like, there's no way. Because when I first saw him, he was at a table surrounded with ladies. Okay. He was. So I was like, whatever. But later on, I saw him eating by himself. I had walked, I don't know what's going with my friend, but walked by and looked over, and he's in a restaurant and he was eating by himself. So I was like, oh. So at that point, I was like, oh, okay. He was telling the truth. So I went over to him, and that's when he started talking and just, got a little flavor for who he was at that time versus what I remember from the 6th grade. And so that kind of opened the door. And later on, we got some, I think there was a cruise we went on, and that time I got to talk to him a lot more. We did a little dancing, but it was just like, okay, he's different, he's changed, and see, he was authentic. That's what drew me to him.
Look at Shawn. So here's the thing that I'm witnessing between the two of you. When you're talking, Philana, he's just like,
yeah,
right, and you look at him the same way when he was. Right. And so there's something there that connection, it is palpable. You feel it. So I'm going to ask, I'm just going to hop straight to the next question that I'm really eager to understand. I'm going to direct this to you, Philana. What do you like most about your husband? What do you love most about him?
Yeah. The thing I like most about is he's authentic. He is who he is wherever he's at, wherever he goes. He's authentic. He's got a heart of love and generosity that just always comes out and shines. He's loyal, and he's a powerful man of God. I don't know, what the audience background is, but his incredible love for the Lord, and that's the foundation that he uses for everything in life. Yes. Yes.
Shawn, what about you?
Wow. Thanks, baby girl. So what I love about her is the fact that she has such a gentle spirit. And what happens with that oftentimes is that her feminine energy shifts me a lot into masculine energy. It's like, I need to take care of her. Like, I have an extreme type A personality. I'm really driven. Like, I'm a driven guy. Like, let's go. Like, I wake up 3 or 4 in the morning. Like, I'm mad because I haven't taken over the known world yet. Come on, man. Like, so here I am, like, blah, 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 blah. And she's just like,
I'm just like, wow.
And it just
can be overwhelming. It can be overwhelming.
Actually, it actually breaks me. I'm like, okay, I got to back up off that a little bit, because you're talking to, an amazing, precious queen, and you're hurting her. You have to take a couple steps back, and you have to repent for that. You have to make a decision. And I believe that every man has to make a decision. Every woman has to make a decision. What's more important, your spouse or your dream? And it's like, my drive is like, let's go. I'm frustrated. I want to do this. I want to do that. But it's like, I have to have that conversation. Like, you know what? I am prepared to let it all go for you. And that is a really tough decision. It didn't happen overnight. And I don't want anybody to think that, we just got all together and we're lovebirds. Because there was a few times in our marriage, we almost didn't make it. Like, we came that close. Like, look, we're done.
We did.
Yeah.
But it's like,
can we make it one more year?
Yeah,
that's what we kept saying. Can we make it one more year? That's what we had to do.
Well, so I remember Michelle Obama talking about Barack and saying, I didn't like him for 10 years.
Yeah.
Like, there was a long period of time where I just didn't like this guy, right? But there's something there that calls us back, right? There's something there that calls us back. What calls you back when you get to that brink? Like, what was it that had you say? Because there's a lot of people. And let me just give some context too, because generationally, nowadays, there's okay, I can just leave if I can just go if I'm not happy. And we don't have, and I don't support anybody staying in something that they're not happy, but sometimes there will be periods where you're not happy. And how do you know when it's a period and when it's a directive, like it's time for you to do something to take care of yourself, right? What are some of the things that you looked out for to be able to determine, hey, is this done? Or what called you back?
You want to go first?
Again,
Or do you want me to go
well,
first?
you can go first.
Okay, baby. Well, when we got married, it wasn't a contract. It was a covenant. There's a difference. Contracts are transactional. You do this and I'll do that. Covenant is I am in a situation that I have bound myself to you, and I am willing to fight for you. I'm willing to fight for it. I'm willing to push past it. I'm in covenant with you, and I'm here to win it. I'm in it to win it. Coupled by the fact that we had a third entity, and that was God. I ain't talking about God in prayer. I mean, God himself, Jehovah, was in this bad boy. And he's like, so now I'm like praying to God. God's like, well, try this and do this and do that. That's number one. Number two, the context of religion or Christianity gave the parameters of our relationship. So when the Bible says I'm supposed to love her, that has nothing to do with it being reciprocated. My job is to love her. My job is to cover her. My job is to protect her. That's my job. I have to do that. I got to fight for this. And the third thing, which I will add, because I'm looking at the microphone talking, she was looking at the camera, is that I made an effort in the rough times.
You did.
You guys got to hear this. No, you don't, baby. You don't know this part.
Yeah, okay.
I made an effort not to allow anybody else to have an audience. That is so important. I'm talking about, I'm not going to my friends, although I went to one. I'm not complaining. I'm not putting that energy out there. That's number one. Number two, I'm not giving space to the opposite sex. I'm not giving them that energy because I know if you're in a position that you are depleted, crackers taste great. You know, it's like, whoa, you're giving me conversation. Yeah, you're talking. Oh shoot! It's like, and then the next thing you know, boom, it is all off of a conversation or a deficit somewhere. So no, I can't do that. I got to fight this thing out. Now, I also will admit that the queen is just submitted unto God. I'm not saying she's submitted to me because that's been a struggle on and off throughout the years, plain and simple, you know. Yeah, but she's submitted unto God. So when the Lord is like, you need to apologize, well, guess what? She apologizes. When God is like, don't leave the house because you're pissed off and go for this 2-hour drive. Get back home and fix this. I'm like, yes, Lord, I got to go back home because the CEO is talking. Good.
Yeah. So basically, like you said, it is the Lord. It's faith and remembering our vows. Like we said, better or worse, richer or poor, sickness and health. That's what we said we're going to do. And then I do recall him saying on the last podcast that our son, that was a big factor. We both came from divorced families, and that, you know, that leaves a lot of scars, a lot of damage that we have to overcome as adults. Did not want that for him. He didn't ask for that. We made a vow to each other. We were going to keep our family together. There was a young man that Shawn and I were asked to escort from Ohio all the way to California because his parents were divorced. So he was like 4 or 5 years old, and we got on the plane, escorted him to go see his dad for a few days and bring him back home. I was like, oh no. I said, that is not something I want as part of our legacy in our home and our family. So it's like, we're going to fight.
And I'm going to say this, that I don't know how my boy would have turned out. Well, I'm going to say it. I think it would have been a disaster. Had I not been there. There were some key moments where I had to just jump right in and be like, no, this is where we're going. I had to fight against a lot. One of the things, like example, he was a little hellion when he was younger. I ain't gonna lie, it was a crazy kid, was off the chain. I'm like, Yeah, I mean, he was like, he would terrorize the babysitter. He would beat kids up. And I would have to sit in the back of the church
At church, yeah.
because I know they were going to call me because he didn't beat some kid up. I go in there, he didn't strangle this kid. He's strangling the kid in church. I'm like, oh my God, this is amazing. And I cried out. And so I said, God, what? And I felt the Lord say, change his name. And I changed his name. And then we legally changed his name from Orion to Caleb. And we caught holy hell from the family. They're like, you changed his name. He got a white name. He got that. It just went on. But you know what? Within 1 week, his whole temperament changed. Everything changed. Years later, God told you.
Yeah.
Now, this is a high-profile working businesswoman, business degree from the Ohio State University. You know, working at a Fortune 500 company, Fortune 100 company. You know, in a business logistics degree at Ohio State University, on a fast track. To just be that powerful corporate woman, and God tells her to come home, leave the workspace, and homeschool our son.
Whoa, that is. Oh,
did we catch it?
Whoa. Whoa.
Oh, yeah, it. I don't even think it was so much he told me to. It was just like something that started bubbling up in my heart, and I was like, this child's going to be small for only so long, and I'm missing it. I'm missing it at the office. I don't want to miss 6 years. They'll never be, I'll never have them back again. So it started bubbling up in my heart. And I knew like that is a huge decision because like he said, I mean, I had a great job, great benefits. That was what I graduated in, logistics. I'm actually working in what I graduated in. Great company. And I was like, wow, this is going to be a huge sacrifice. And what happens when all, this check is gone? Check is gone. Benefits are gone. And so, but it's like, you know what? I'm going to follow. I'm going to take a leap of faith and do it. So I did end up resigning when he was, I think, 5. He just turned 5. And I went to homeschool him, set the foundation for, the rest of his life. And of course, people thought you are nuts. You are crazy. Black people don't do that. What you going to do? They asked all kinds of questions, but I was like, you know what? He'll work it out. He's going to work it out. Now, I'm not saying we didn't have some issues and problems with that. There were some lean and mean years with that because, that paycheck was gone. But, we worked through it. And we wouldn't trade it. For anything. I was able to, with that extra time though. By the way, I loved homeschooling. I have a teacher's heart because my mom and teaching. So yeah, I know other people's like, I could never be a teacher. Like I could never do that, but that's in my heart. So it was so much fun, and I enjoyed the time with him. We got to, go out and do excursions. There were other families that were doing it as well. So, we got together and, did outings and things like that, and it was so much fun. But with that time, I was able to join Shawn in the business because he had just started the security business and he needed help. So literally after I resigned, the next week I was on board with him at the business. So trying to juggle homeschooling and this business now. So
and that's a totally different dynamic when I'm walking into the office and I'm like the CEO and your wife is like, oh, slow down. But
it really does take something to work with your partner. And I've seen people attempt it. I don't think that I would have that kind of, because I'm like, the realities are, it takes a certain kind of people and it takes a certain kind of vision to work together and make something happen like that. And if your vision, there's an alignment piece, there's a 10 times more communication precision that needs to happen. I mean, it takes so much. I'm like, I think I'll just, go because I can only imagine honestly and candidly the strain that it could potentially place if there's not this, again, precision in that alignment, in that communication, and in that vision. I want to, there's so many places I want to go. I'm going to come back to this. So let's park this for a second. I want to go back because Shawn said something, the S word, submit. And you were saying, hey, that's kind of a thing. And
It is.
for those who are not, even when you are aligned in your faith, it's hard then.
He's out of the picture. He just left the picture.
Right? Thing. And I think that it takes folks who grapple with it and tangle with it and say, and you're doing all that grappling and wrestling inside of a context of ain't nobody going nowhere. Now imagine doing that grappling and that tangling when folks are like, look, if this just gets too difficult, I'll leave anyway, right? It's a different kind of thing. But that submit thing, I'm so interested in hearing from Philana, like what your experience is, what does that look like? And Shawn was really specific when he said, well, let me be clear, she submits to God, not me. And there's a part that in the framework, it seems like in the agreement that you two share, that ultimately submitting to God, if he is a man of God, your husband, there is that piece where you're actually submitting to him in some kind of way. Am I thinking about it wrong? Help me like sort out how that works with this feeling like I'm submitting to God's will, but not necessarily my husband, right? Does that make sense what I'm asking? Okay.
Yeah. And it should, in a perfect world, it would align just like that. Like just being submitted to God should allow me to submit directly to him because that's what the word says. But doing it is a whole different story, especially when you come from a background of a single mom led family where you see mom making all the decisions, where you see mom making the money, where you see mom, in charge, and didn't have that as an example. And I had a very difficult time submitting to him because I was like, are you going to be able to take care of me? Are you going to be able to supply the security that I'm looking for? I mean, I was like, I know I resigned from the job, but before that, I was like, I'm good. I mean, I got a job. I can take care of myself. I was living alone and single, and like, what's this about submission? But
stop for a second.
Yes.
Coupled by the fact that
stop talking like
that. Because I'm trying to talk to this microphone. Coupled by the fact that she didn't see a lot of it in me to submit to in the early years. She didn't say it. She saw the inconsistencies. I was horrible with money. I was a mess. So it's like, how do I submit to that? Like my livelihood is like I'm looking. No, no. That was tough for her. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, that is true. We were polar opposites in a lot of areas, and money was one of those things, and that was a huge hang up. I'm one that's more conservative, would like to save, like to plan, and he's just like, hey, let's go.
Risk.
Just spin,
Risk.
let's go.
Risk.
Yes,
let's
try. Yes.
And
so that was very difficult. Had a lot of difficult conversations about money, and just trying to come together in that area made it very, very difficult to submit. But he's a giver, and I had to understand that's part of who he is, and I can't be afraid of him giving to areas and organizations and people that need it. So that was one of the ways that I could submit to that. But submitting to his leadership and to just him being a man was a struggle. I didn't understand the respect thing. I didn't understand how deep it was. I was never taught that. And as I came to understand that, I was like, okay, it's making more sense now. But that was very, very difficult. And it hurt him. It hurt him very deeply. That was not able to get to that point for quite a while. So,
Yeah.
That's really I'm just so very grateful to like have this part of the journey and for to hear this part too, because I think it's important for people to understand that it is normal when you grew up in a house, all women, none of them ever in a sustainable, healthy, nowhere to model. And not only do you not have anything to model, but the things that you're being told are based on what their journey is. So trying to figure out how to make that adjustment and actually trust somebody coming into your life when you're like, everything in my DNA, my body at the cellular level says, take care of yourself first.
Right.
Yes.
Make sure.
Right.
Yes.
Make sure. And my grandmother, one of our favorite things to do would be to pretend that she won the lotto. And then she would tell same story. This person would get that, you would get the most, like all the stuff, right? But one of the things that she always says, do not give this money. You have your own account and you put this money in it. Everything I'm telling you about getting this money is null and void if I find out that you've connected with someone and it's become your group like you're sharing it. Don't do that. Right now, looking at my grandfather, I get it, but that sets me up to not understand or be able to connect with someone in this vulnerable way. Now, what I will say, what I've seen, and this is what I've seen, is that folks who get together before in their teen, like super early in life, they seem to have a different perspective of longevity. I have two family members. They were brothers. They met their now wives when they were like 15, 16, got married 18, 19, still married. We have our family gatherings. They're the couple on the dance floor together, grooving and grinding. Whoa, what? You guys, they still have that. So there's something about meeting somebody before and going through and evolving together, as opposed to you meet somebody in your 40s when you've already determined you have all your of courses, all of your nevers, all of your always locked in. So I guess my question is, so that wasn't a question. That was thank you for sharing. And how money is a tough one.
It is.
And money is so closely connected to autonomy and having, everything that you've talked about, Philana. And then you get into this situation where you have to trust. And money is just paper, but it symbolizes so much. And so how did you move past the money conversation, especially when you were at one point, I think I heard you say like you were the not primary, but you were making more money in the relationship. And you have to change your mind.
Probably equal.
Yeah.
Probably equal.
Okay. I made an assumption. Okay. But you have your own.
Right.
You don't need him. You don't need him.
Right.
And I think, so now you're charged with making him feel needed and wanted and adored, needed. Because I think, and I don't know, Shawn, you can speak to this. I think men want to feel needed for all that they do. And you're with someone who doesn't technically need you in that way, in the ways in which you want to show up, protect her, financial resources, cover her in all these ways. How does that work?
So it's not so much need, it's respected.
Got it.
It is. And I need for every female listener to really understand. And normally I never speak in the context of a man and a Black man or a white man, but understand that I'm speaking especially in the context of a Black man. When we go out there, okay, everything in society aims to strip us, to actually break us down, to break us. Everything in the workplace, we're sitting there. Sometimes, they kind of force us in one or two camps. Either, we're like the passive guy or we're the angry N-word. And it's just attacks. Now, imagine when you're seeing African Americans being pulled over by the police. So I want you to take that mindset and now apply it to corporate America. How many times we're being pulled over in corporate America, singled out in corporate America, fired in corporate America. Imagine having more talent and potential, more prowess than a white counterpart, and see him get fast-tracked right in front of your eyes. Now imagine business owners being told over the phone, 3 separate times, you got the contract.
Yes.
Thank you. Great bid. Go there.
Show up.
And somehow within hours, that contract disappears.
Yeah, vanishes. Yeah.
Vanishes.
Yes.
Imagine feeling that, coupled by the fact that every man has that drive to say, hey, I'm going to be the best I can be. I'm going to take over the world, and have that emasculated, stripped in front of your face. And then you come home, and you don't come home to a place of peace. You don't come home to a place of rest, because your partner, your wife, your girlfriend is listening to her friends like, you don't need a man. Listening to every song on the radio, all men ain't no good. All of the movies, when it comes to that black families, like, you know what? No, I'm the boss. I'm in charge. Now he's emasculated at home, and he's emasculated in the workplace. So when a man, especially a black man, when he feels respected and honored, it is more, listen to this, it is more powerful than sex.
Oh, okay. Well, I think I write that down. Yeah. And so we talked about that. So Philana, we both listened to him talk about, and you can, it's a visceral feeling when he talks about what it is and what it does to his soul, right? Being out in the world and then coming home to you. So there's an energy there that's very intense. What is your version? What is your intense version of what you need? So he said respect and what that feels like. What do you feel equally just intentional and just serious about? What is your thing?
I think that just being covered. I mean, being covered was a huge thing. When I came home, I was in a very vulnerable state, and I wanted to be covered by him. Now, when you
said when you came home,
I mean, when I resigned to homeschool,
yes,
I needed some coverage. I needed some security. I want to know that things are going to be okay. And he did his very best, and I think he took that as, I got to go out and go get more money and run harder and run faster. And in doing that, it came to the point where I was injured because he wasn't there. And I'm like, I'm becoming a single wife, raising my son alone. And I'm like, it's not what I signed up for either. So it was very difficult, very difficult.
And the result of that, was that I felt abandoned. I felt betrayed, and a lot of the love and affection left me, and it went to my son, because he was the safe one. He was there. He was there. And I'm like, hello, and I'm off the road now. I'm home. Daddy's home. And it's like, you the side guy. He's like, you the side guy. I'm like, oh, wait a second. No, wait. I'm the man. No, he's the man. I'm like,
that issue. You felt abandoned, but I did too, and that's why.
So Shawn,
go ahead.
So your whole thing was you decided that we're gonna not do that, your income, that you're gonna come here. And so I'm gonna go out and hustle up to take care of you because that's my role and that's what you want. And as you're doing that and working overtime, you don't realize that they're slipping away from you. And so did you have a feeling of like, I'm doing what you asked over here? And so if I stay home more, I make less money. If I go out and make the money, then I'm not home as much. Did you have that feeling of like, like, what can I do? It's either I'm doing this or I'm doing that. Did you have that feeling, Philana? Did you have that awareness of him being in that thing, or were you too busy just trying to hold things together and missing your husband and trying to get your son situated? What was so? I've asked you both questions. So let me start with you, Shawn, and ask you, how did you feel? Was there resentment about that?
I knew that I saw the symptoms, but I didn't know what the disease was. Because I'm thinking, hey, I'm making it happen. Look at this is done, results, and I see the symptoms, but I can't put 2 and 2 together till years later. And I'm like, what the heck? Like look what I'm doing. Like, I'm gone, 4 or 5 days, whatever. But I'm like, look what I'm doing. I couldn't see it. See it. And that's just the truth.
Yeah. That's good. That's honest. Philana?
Yeah. So I think it was a little different situation, because when he was hustling, he did have to be away for days. It's not like he's at the office a few hours longer and he comes home that night. He's gone for 4 or 5 days at a time, 2 or 3 times a month. So that became, a point where I'm like, wow, we got to find a balance here. Plus the business that we were in it's a security business. It is a 24/7 business. So when he was home, he was engrossed in that business. There was always things going on. That's just another story.
Yeah, that's a whole new episode right there.
So that seemed like it's like no matter what, he's gone, whether he's gone on the road or he's gone when he's home, because that business was taking a lot of time and a lot of energy.
So and if I could add this, I guess this is more therapeutic. As a former athlete, you have a timeout, you have halftime, and then you have off seasons. You have to have a serious time apart as a couple. It's like just me and you, like we just got off of a cruise, 10-day cruise. We're on a 10-day cruise somewhere in Italy, like we're around the world on this cruise, right? And you have, because this is really deep, is that you can go through wounds and traumas and hurts, and if you're not careful, it becomes the new normal. It's kind of like brushing your teeth every day and you go to the dentist, but no, you didn't get the plaque. And you got to go and you got to get rid of the plaque. And so you have to go in, spend some time apart, because your marriage is misaligned and you're just overcompensating just to keep it aligned, to keep it afloat for the next 15, 20 years. But you got to fix the alignment, because eventually the tire is going to pop, because it keeps going to the right or to the left, and you just overcompensating. And so now we had to go in and we had to break some stuff up, some old hidden resentment of even 25 years. It's like, you know what? This happened and we need to fix this just to bring it back into proper alignment, because I don't want to be married for 24 more years, 25 more years, and I'm just overcompensating because of a wound I had in year 7 or 8 I just never dealt with. And we just decided just to be together. I want the best, the la creme of what we do. I want the best of it.
Wow. Okay. Well, I got some work to do in my marriage, honey. You just created a house. I know if you get a call from somebody named Richard and he not happy. Yeah, it's a whole thing, and I this is not, I'm not, things could be devastatingly worse, right? Obviously, but I think sometimes we conflate relief and happiness, or like sometimes they feel the same. So there are times where you're like, I'm glad that's not happening, But the
Right.
this the big thing that it, right? So there's a difference between somebody not doing or not being something and somebody doing and being something, right? And I think
Right.
sometimes we conflate those. And I mean, this is not just my situation. I'm bringing all of my girlfriends and our hangouts together to this conversation, because there's these variations on how to access a lot of the things that you two seem to be able to do. And you talk about it after the fact, and even though you say, oh, it wasn't always easy, the way you show up and connect and the energy you have now, it makes me feel like, oh, they must have had some secret sauce or something. There's something that they feel like it just feels or seems easier than I know it was. And maybe because you're on this side of it, and maybe because of the way Shawn spoke about you the first one, and I'm feeling the energy now. I will say, let's see, the next question is, I'm very curious to know Philana, how are you better? What have you learned most about yourself through his eyes? Maybe not through all the stuff that you've been through, and yeah, I realized this thing. But when you look at him, you've grown, you've evolved, you've been together for a long time. What have you learned most about yourself in this partnership with him?
I've learned that anything is possible. That I can set my mind and my heart on what our goals are, what our dreams are, and choose to trust, choose to believe, choose to hope, choose to have faith to go forward. And I had to learn how to trust him. I mean, I did mention before that he is always authentic, but I had to learn how to trust his decisions. Like, he really is a wise man. Like, he's very wise. He's gained so much intelligence. He's done so much work on himself that he's extremely wise. And I had to, like, wow, I got to learn. I did learn how to respect. Learn how to respect. And that, let's see. Yeah, just to be transparent, to be able to communicate with him in a way that I can let him know what I'm really thinking. There was a time before where I was terrified to let him know what my emotions were. I can do that, and he's still going to be there. He accepts me for who I am. So that's probably a roundabout way, but
yeah. John, I want to ask your question a little differently. Do you want to respond to that first? You want to?
Well, let me hear you ask the question, because I might,
So, because of her, there's somebody you get to be. Because of how she stands for you, because of who she is, because of how she wraps around you, there's a person that you get to be that you probably wouldn't be able to get to be if it were not for her. Who do you get to be now as a result of having this partner?
I get to, okay, so I'm going to say this.
Context. You know, when they got to set up the answer, you know there's something coming. Okay, go ahead. Set it up.
This, I think it's a little, it could be slightly different for a man than for a woman, because, and I'm going to keep coming back to this, we set our marriage up with our marriage is on the playing field of the Bible. And what I mean by that is, when you play basketball, you got rules. That's right. Can't double dribble, you can't do this, you can't do that, right? So when you get married, you go onto the playing field, and people who have, their marriages predicated off of the world system, I feel sorry for you. It's tough. What are the rules? So now our marriage is in the confines of a religion. It's the Bible. And we both respect and adhere to the rules. So even though we're out of bounds, right? I said, I still know what's right and what's wrong is wrong. You know, there's some people that's like, hey, adultery is okay. It's okay to do that. It was like, no, it's not okay to do that in the rules of how we are married. So with men, how it's slightly different is the Bible talks about women respect your husbands. It doesn't talk a lot about women love your husbands, respect your husbands. But it says men love your wives as Christ loves the church. So that equals a slow death for me, because it chips away at my selfishness. It chips away at my narcissism. It chips away at my ego. It's like, even when I'm right, I have to, I got to be the one to make amends, because I have to love her. She doesn't say that she got to love me. I got to love her. I got to protect her. I got to give my life and give myself for her. I have to prepare my heart and mind to lay my life down for her, because that's the rules that I had adhered to. Now, for those who don't play by those rules, God bless you, because they got a whole new other set of rules, but this is the rules that I adhere to.
I really love that. It does really kind of make things easier. Can you imagine playing the game? You show up on a basketball court, you got a football bat, you got a football helmet on, you got, right? Like, how do you play it? I have my mother is going through some memory stuff slowly, kind of, and the nature of our relationship has been sometimes tight over the years, right? And I had to make a decision because I'm realizing, I'm mad about things that she doesn't even remember. So what do I do? How do I have these conversations? How do I, right? So I had to make a decision that I'm going to be the type of daughter, regardless, that I can feel good about, because in the sunset of her years, and when she finally decides to make her transition, I want to be able to say, I showed up. I showed up in spite of, I showed up, because that's what soothes my soul. And that's what gets me through my life. And so what I'm hearing you saying, Shawn, is that really it's about, you have made the choice of the type of husband you want to be. And I think you've said this in so many ways. You've made that choice. Once you've decided type of husband you're going to be, how she shows up is secondary, because you have decided to be who you're going to be. And I think, go ahead. No, go.
Also, what it does is, being a believer in God, it says, when I'm in position as, hey, I'm the man, I'm loving you, I'm serving you, I'm leading you the best way I can. When I'm in position, now she's like, I'm submitting to that, I'm submitting to you unto God. What happens is that now God is like, okay, there's order in the house. Now I can check you, Shawn. I can step in, I can intervene. God, and I hope I don't really get in trouble with this, but if I do, okay, just send an email. God loves order.
He does.
So when my wife, and I can always tell, when she gets in submission and position, like, Lord, I trust you, I get taken to the woodshed. It's like, he like, bruh, wake up. You are wrong, and I'm going to deal with you. You got a small window to fix this, bruh, because she's in position, right? And then when I'm in position and she's not in position, she gets taken to the woods shed. I can't overstate the third element in this, and that's, God, I'll say it again, had it not been for God himself, we would not be here.
Make it.
I think one of the things that I do know is that when there is no order, we don't know you don't know who to blame. You don't know who's at fault. You can't even put your finger on the thing to be able to address the thing, because there is no stabilizing force. And so what I'm hearing you saying is, have God in the word to be able to true yourselves up to as a couple, true yourselves up to as a husband, true yourself up to, and without those things, without that, then it's just like, where do we begin? What are the rules, right?
Yeah.
This has been so very, very, very amazing. I've always wanted to talk to a couple that had the longevity, because again, no models around me, not in my family.
Right.
There's one couple here that I love and adore more, and they've been at it 6 kids later. I think they're in their 60s or early, and I love them. But when I talked to Shawn and the way that you talked about your wife, I was like, this is the couple that I want to talk to. So I am so very grateful. And I'm very clear that things aren't always, so there are some thorns among all these roses. There are some thorns along the way, but it's just healthy to be able to share space with folks like such as yourselves. So is there anything that you want to say for the good of the order before? Go for it, Shawn.
I do. You go first.
Oh.
Go ahead,
No,
baby.
you had something.
Yeah, I do.
Go ahead.
Okay. It's war.
Yeah. It is.
This is war. We are representing, I believe, the original order of the world. This is war. Okay. There's not a lot of role models outside of the Huxtables. I think it all ended with the Huxtables. It all ended with the Huxtables. There's not a lot of, and there isn't a book. And you know what? We didn't learn anything about marriage in high school nor middle school. We wasn't getting a manual about this thing, and we're just thrown out there. And there's a lot of benefits to people being married, because the bankers love it. You buy a house, you do this, and then there's a lot of benefits of being divorced. The lawyers love it. It's just, but it's a fight. It's war. We are warring. So my parting words is, number one is, this ain't perfect.
No.
There's still. Look, I'm going to see a therapist today. Okay, I'm going to see a therapist today at 5:00. Okay, so pray for us. And I don't ever want you to think that we got it together. We're fighting this thing, and we're going to continue to fight because we want to go for the win. I'm not perfect. I'm weak at times. I mess up at times. I yell at times, or I get frustrated at times. It's a war, but it's worth it. It's a war that is worth it. And it's like sandpaper, right? Like sandpaper. And you just rub against each other. And over years, you get smoother and smoother. And then God finds another area. And then he uses your partner to just rub it and rub it and rub it. And then it gets smoother and smoother. And then another angle is smoother and smoother. But if you don't quit and you don't settle, like, I'm just going to be married. I'm just going to find. No. Ladies, if you don't settle and you keep fighting for that, God can do an amazing work.
A mighty thing. Yeah.
Totally agree. There's times that we just look at each other and we're like, we're so glad. We're so glad that we worked through. We're so glad that we hung on. If we had let go, we wouldn't have allowed God to do his work in us or finish the perfect work that he's starting. And so, we're like you said, it's not perfect yet. We're still learning. We're still growing. We're still working through it. But we're so glad. We're so glad that we hung in there. We're so glad that we can be an example for others to follow. And we just want to glorify God through our union.
Yeah. Listen. One of the greatest things I've ever heard is my son. He's 22 now. Senior, Jesus, at the University of Kentucky. He's like, Dad, I can't wait, if things work out in this crazy world that, I want to get married and I want to have kids too. And he's like, well, I want to have 3 kids, not just one though. And I'm like, I was like, Jesus, I never had that mindset. I never had that conversation. It wasn't even in my psyche to be a father. This man is like, he's like looking at us.
Yes.
And that's a stamp on saying, good job. I want what you have, Mom and Dad. Golly.
And that's it right there. I mean, if nothing else, that's it right there.
Nothing else. Yeah.
Because what you set up are thriving grandchildren. And right. And so the legacy has started, right? Yeah. That's more than something that's, thank you. Thank you so much for being here. Oh my gosh. I would love to have y'all back again. Maybe we could do an annual thing or something, but thank you so much. Thank you so much. And we will see you next time. Thanks for sharing.
Thank you, Dr. Michelle.
Hey everyone, I hope you enjoyed what you heard today. If you did, please click the small bell and become a subscriber and join me in spreading the message of grace.